Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Morning Mindset. I'm Kerry Green, your host for these Morning Mindset episodes where we are ready to get our minds aligned with the truth of God. And I want to pause for a moment and say thank you to a lot of people who have reached out to me via email to let me know how the Morning Mindset is impacting your life. And among those people, there have been some comments asking if there are ways to support the Morning Mindset. And up to this point, I haven't even thought about that, but the idea has been put out, and I decided I would make a way for that to happen. If you were interested, you can go to kerrygreen.com/support and find out more, or you can just look at the description in your podcast player app and find the link there. We've been walking through Romans chapter 8 and considering the things that the Apostle Paul is telling us here about the love of God. And he's just told us this whole handful of things that we tend to get caught up on or even be oppressed by in life that cause us to doubt God's love for us. Things like tribulation, distress, persecution, famine, danger. And in our minds, those are terrible things. And I'm not one to belittle them. They are very terrible things. And there's a phrase that Paul says just after that list, where he says, as it is written, for your sake we are being killed all the day long. We are regarded as sheep to be slaughtered. Now that's a quotation from Psalm chapter 44. And as New Testament writers are prone to do, Paul is quoting the Old Testament kind of as a reference for his Jewish background readers. Remember, he wrote this to a church in the city of Rome. And Paul is writing it to say, see, this is not a new thing. This was even expressed in the Old Testament, that for God's sake, as his people, we often undergo suffering. And if you go back and read Psalm chapter 44, you see that in that context, the writer there was expressing kind of his discouragement, his wondering about when is God going to deliver me from these things? Because for his sake, it seems I'm being killed all the day long. I'm like a sheep that's appointed to be slaughtered. And if you remember, in the Old Testament context, sheep appointed to be slaughtered were sheep being given as sacrifice. So both Paul and the writer of the Psalms are talking about us giving our lives as living sacrifices. And Paul actually is going to say that coming up in chapter 12 of the book of Romans very explicitly. But Paul draws it in from the Old Testament just to remind us that being God's people often carries a price tag with it, a price tag of suffering, of hardship, because it's the way we respond in those moments of hardship that indicate we are indeed children of God. You see, as we are going through something that feels like we are being killed all the day long, or as we're going through something that feels like to us we are a sheep about to be slaughtered, we have the choice to turn back to God in faith and reaffirm our faith in him and say, no matter what happens, I will trust in the love of my God. Or we have the choice to abandon that. And my friends, the Morning Mindset is here to help you remember in those hard times that God is worth following. He's worth clinging to. The temporary things that we go through in this world, in this lifetime, are not worthy of being compared with the glory that we are going to receive. Just previously in verse number 8, in chapter number 8, Paul has told us that. He's reminded us of that. And he goes on here in verse 37 and he says, no, in all these things, we, you and I, are more than conquerors through him who loved us. You see, we need that reminder, don't we? Because life is hard. And God sometimes appoints life to be hard. But when we remind each other, as Paul is reminding us here, that in all these things we're more than conquerors through Jesus Christ, we're able to turn to God again in thanksgiving, in gratitude, with hearts that say, yes, I will cling to the Lord in this circumstance, rather than turn away. Join me again tomorrow for the Morning Mindset.